Welcome to week 8 of the Authentara Blueprint Leadership Series. Before we dig in, I want to ask for a quick tech check. You should be able to hear my voice clearly and see the slide on your screen. If anything's off, like you're seeing my mouth moving but you can't hear me, or that you can hear me and can't see me, please refresh your browser or drop a note in the chat. We'll pause a couple of times today for practical application reflection. So be ready to engage if you're able. If you're catching this on replay, feel free to write down your responses or share them with a peer. I'm David Petrwall, founder of Authentara, author of Pirate Jokes Aren't Funny. Everything we teach in this series is grounded in one belief: leadership isn't about personality, it's about practice. And when those practices drift from values, your team can feel it. That's what today is all about. Oh, and every week we pair the theme with the track from the Pirate Aren't Funny music playlist. This week it's Dog Days Are Over by Florence and the Machine, because when execution aligns with purpose, the entire energy of your culture shifts and the drag disappears. So let's get started here. Execution is about getting things done. It's about getting the right things done the right way at the right time together. And most leaders, well, they're overwhelmed. They're not lazy. They're not unclear. They're just misaligned. So between what we say and what people hear, between what gets planned and what gets prioritized, between what they actually believe and what they're willing to act on. And that misalignment costs you as a leader. It costs you revenue, talent, trust, time. You know it. Your team feels it, and your culture absorbs it. The truth is, most organizations don't suffer from poor strategy. They suffer from poor follow through. They plan, posture, and then they protect themselves from the consequences. You know, the blame game. But not maybe not in your organization, right? Maybe not in your organization. But what we do know is we're talking about true alignment today, not about hustle, not about the business of busyness or anything fake. We're talking about aligned execution. That's the practice of making every decision, every interaction, every moment of your leadership match your stated goals and shared values. Because inauthentic execution is invisible until it's not. It's your churn rate, your disengagement numbers, your almost launch projects, and it's in the leadership shadow that you cast. So today, let's go ahead and make it real. This is the final core behavior in the Authentara Blueprint. And what we know is that your leadership system has grown from day one, and your leadership system will either hold or fall apart. Because you don't just need inner clarity, authentic dialogue, or a sharp insight. You need to know how all of these move together. And more than that, you need a rhythm that holds when the pressure spikes. Think of a Formula One team in the pit lane. The strategy is sound, the timing is critical, but if the tire team is off by just a beat, or the fuel crew doesn't know the call, the race is over before the car leaves the pit. That's execution, and that's what we're here to fix. Here's why and where we're headed where we're today. First, we want to figure out what's aligned execution and what it isn't. Then, what's the real world cost of poor alignment? What signals show your team is out of sync, and what signals do they give you? What tools can we use to actually help in the moment? And how can one leader, just you, start to shift the system? But let's take a moment. Where in your organization have you seen intent drift away from action? And where did it cost you time, trust, or traction? You've already done the work to build the system, and here's what we've mapped so far, and you can see it on the left-hand side. The inner clarity, knowing who you are and why you lead. Trust-based transparency, telling the truth before it becomes a problem. Equitable insight, seeing what others ignore and naming what others won't. And then guiding principles, leading a compass, not a convenience radar. Those four attributes help us enter the behavior zone, where what we talk about is activated growth, choosing discomfort over drift, compassionate leadership, holding people and performance in the same, authentic dialogue, making sure voices aren't just heard but used. And now we put it into motion. Aligned execution is what transforms belief into behavior. It's what drives action from leadership. Five different interpretations of what we just went through. It's when you have a strategy deck that looks solid, but no one's calendar reflects the actual priorities. It's the illusion of unity, and honestly, it's lethal because chaos, at least chaos is honest. You know there's a mess, you know it needs sorting, but fake alignment gives you fake confidence. Fake alignment is when you think everything's clear. You think things are moving until the deadline starts to slip, the team fractures, or the culture starts whispering what no one will say out loud. This is the execution gap. And it's not about tools or timelines. It's about the sync between your behaviors, your beliefs, your actions, and your team's behaviors. That's what alignment and aligned execution solves. If you were listening to Dog Days Are Over by Florence and the Machine, you'd hear her talk about it's not about being in control, it's about liberating motion that's actually aligned. When the drag of agreement ends, when that ends, you don't just move, you really accelerate. It's not a to-do list. It's not drive or grit or more color-coded Gantt charts. This, making the work match the why at every level in every meeting every day, not in theory, not in the off call only, in your actual decisions, in your actual calendar, in your team's behavior when no one's watching. That's what makes it a behavior, not just a buzzword. Here's how we define it inside the blueprint. It's the practice behavior of translating values, insights, and commitments, coordinated action, so that what matters most actually moves forward. That last part truly matters. What matters most? Because what moves forward in most organizations, honestly, it's not values, it's not insight, it's politics, personality, proximity to power. But real execution, the kind that doesn't burn people out or make them bitter, it starts upstream. It starts with those attributes that help create the behavior zone, that inner clarity. So your decisions come from intention, not impulse. That trust based transparency. So expectations aren't left to interpretation, equitable insight. So your path reflects reality, not just comfort, and guiding principles. So your system holds under stress, not just under praise. We go through these in depth during the Authentara Authentic Leader Certification. And when those four are alive, this aligned action gets truly visible, not in planning documents, not in handoffs, not in feedback loops, and what actually gets resourced and reinforced. And that aligned execution. And with it, well, everything else is just, talk. Let's be clear. Most leaders think they're aligned, especially at the top. We'll see a couple of different stats from a couple of organizations today, but the further you go down, the more that belief structure fractures. 85% of senior leaders say strategy is clear. Only 23% of frontline teams say the same. That gap, that's not misunderstanding, that's mistrust waiting to happen. And the cost isn't just morale, it's actually measurable. 20% of work time lost, goals missed, attrition up, execution suffers. because clarity died somewhere between the decision and the delivery. That's why we say alignment isn't agreement, it's follow through. If your words don't match your workflows, then your culture will call your bluff. There was no connective structure in between. And that's what aligned execution is meant to solve. Because here's the truth: action without alignment is just movement, and leadership is motion with meaning. Most organizations don't fall apart because of laziness, they fall apart because of misalignment in motion. Think about it: no feedback loops, unclear roles, shifting priorities, fear of speaking up. That's not laziness. That's silence. That's confusion. That's fragility baked into the system. And here's the stat that should stop every executive in their track. According to HBR, 95% of employees don't understand their company strategy. If 95% of the people don't know where we're headed, how can we expect them to move in alignment? You can have the best strategy deck in the world. Honestly, you can run offsites and town halls and vision refreshes. But if the systems, behaviors that carry it forward are broken, or if leadership can't model alignment themselves, it's just noise. And in the quantum workforce, where a misalignment moves faster, your team isn't confused once a quarter, they're confused every day. We don't have time for performative alignment. We need embedded alignment. And that's what we want to be able to explore on these next few slides. Let's trade drift for clarity. How you start turning scattered execution into aligned momentum. This is called the sync and signal rep. As you know, we've been doing reps all this webinar series because we know that behaviors start when you actually run the behavior. A behavior pattern is set when you not just press go, but when the team knows how to be able to get there. So here's the rep. Before you move, make sure the mission is clear. Sync the why out loud. This is what we're really trying to solve and why. This decision aligns with the priority we agreed on. State why we agreed on it. This isn't about perfection, it's about momentum. Explain why you have the momentum and say it out loud. In other words, sync the signal. And then signal what matters. Don't 12 priorities and 14 different ideas. Signal one or two that count. This week, this is the needle moving and why. If everything's important, nothing's aligned. So you have to focus on what is, not just on a sign of weakness, but what's the real driver of real execution. Number 3, check for understanding, not agreement. Everyone nods in agreement, but this is where leaders actually flinch. You're not asking for a vote, you're checking for clarity. You have to ask questions, the open-ended engagement questions, to get responses. How does this land for you? What would you get in the way of working on this project? Where are we not clear yet? If they don't get it, they can't execute it. And then finally, 4, close the loop. We talk about follow through all the time. Alignment doesn't hold if there's no loop. Document it, confirm it, follow through on it. And the next time you launch something, reference that this is how we guided the launch for alignment previously. Execution isn't a one-time act. It's a leadership habit. It's a consistent behavior. That's why we do the reps. And this one, the sync, signal, check, close. Because without clarity, well, the chaos itself becomes fake alignment. Let's talk about the moment after the mess, right? You've named the priority, you've untangled the spin, you've reached expectations, and now there's this stillness. There's this moment when teams look up, unsure if they can really believe the chaos is over. It's the moment a leader has to do more than just declare alignment. They have to walk it out. That's what aligned execution looks like in real life. Not just a pretty strategy document or another vision deck at this time, but behaviors, cadence, rhythm, a new beat that teams can move to. And that's why when we listen to the song Dog Days Are Over, it's the moment, because when the fog clears, even just a little, people need a reason to move again, to run towards something instead of away from it, to trust the tempo their leader sets. Florence doesn't whisper her call to action. She belts it out. And aligned leaders, they do the same thing. They show up in rooms that are tired. They take responsibility when outcomes fall apart. They make clear what matters next, and they keep showing up until others believe it too. Execution without alignment creates exhaustion. But when strategy and action finally sync, the dog days are over. That's the change. That's the shift. That's what we mean when we start to talk about aligned execution. So we don't need another meeting about execution. We actually need leaders who align what they say with what they actually do. That's your challenge this week. Pick one goal the team is chasing, just the one. Name the non-negotiables clearly. Audit your team's actions. Are you reinforcing or just referencing? And then, build one system, however small, that makes it easier for your team to act in sync. Follow it up loudly, quietly, consistently. I don't care how you do it, but follow it up. Post it. Tag Authentara, because we want to hear about what you're doing, the goals you're achieving, and how you're getting there. We know that aligned execution doesn't start with a strategy. It starts with your behaviors. It's in your calendar, your replies, your delegation, your deadlines. That's what your team is watching. This isn't about shouting vision. It's about signaling alignment. And if you want to train that muscle, you really want to train that muscle, then contact me about our next authentic leadership certification cohort that kicks off on July 22nd. No fluff, just real reps for leaders ready to do the work. You can contact me directly and I'll make sure to get into the course. Well, here we are. We've said a lot today in a short amount of time, but what we know is aligned execution and with a phrase begins with a practice. The real leadership cost, it's not bad strategy. It's when intention and behavior don't match and your team stop trusting. That's the concern for all of us. But when leaders stop shouting and start signaling with action, the rhythm returns. And so does the progress. So this week, say less, signal more. Don't shout direction, align it. When in doubt, be the first one to show them how. That's the rep. That's the work. One behavior at a time, one leader at a time, one rep at a time. Just a quick reminder again, our next authentic leadership certification kicks off on July 22nd. And more than that, moving our webinars to Thursdays starting on July 24th. On the 24th of July, join me to learn more about the true cost of inauthentic leadership. You won't want to miss it. And in the meantime, reflect on your attributes, reflect on your behaviors, and put the time in for practice. Thanks for being here today. Thanks for being real. And as always, make today awesome, because today is the day.